Hello students, welcome to Instal's English class, where we believe in democratizing education for all. Students, today we are going to focus on a part of speech that often works silently behind the scenes but plays a key role in almost every sentence we speak or write: determiners. Let's get started and uncover how these small but powerful words, determiners, shape our sentences and sharpen our meaning. From a book to my book to this book, you'll soon see how one little word can make all the difference. First, let's begin by understanding what determiners are. These are words placed in front of nouns to clarify what the noun refers to. In simple terms, determiners help the listener or reader understand exactly what or how much we are talking about. Now, what do they actually do? They help specify which one, how many, whose, or how much. Without determiners, our sentences would often be vague or confusing. And finally, remember that we use a number of words before common nouns to give more detail or context. These words are what we call determiners. Now that we've covered what determiners are and how they work, let's take a quick look at some examples you'll often come across. This chart gives us a great variety of determiners that are used in everyday sentences. Starting off, we can see first, each, every, and hundred. These are used to point out position or quantity. For example, first in line, each student, every morning, or 100 rupees. Next, look at the possessive and demonstrative determiners in the middle row: my, our, and this, those. These help us show ownership or point something out. For instance, my pencil, our school, this idea, or those apples. This and those act as demonstratives and my and our act as possessives. Now glance at the lower row. Here we have a few, the few. These express small quantities. For example, a few people attended the event, or the few friends he had were very loyal. Then we see a, and the basic articles we've already discussed. A and an are indefinite, while the is definite and refers to something specific. Lastly, we have either and neither. These are used for choices and exclusions. For example, either road leads to the station, or neither answer is correct. Let's now go over some essential rules of determiners which will help us avoid common mistakes while speaking and writing. To begin with, determiners always come before nouns. For example, we say the book, not book the. Similarly, an orange is correct, not orange an. The determiner leads the noun, guiding the listener about which, one, or how many. Next, there's a small but important word order tip. If a noun is preceded by both a determiner and an adjective, the determiner will always come first. Let's take the phrase, a delicious cake. Here a is the determiner and delicious is the adjective. We can't say delicious a cake, that would be incorrect. So the determiner always stands first, followed by the adjective, then the noun. Moving on, remember that determiners are always required when introducing singular nouns. You cannot just say apple is red. That sentence feels incomplete. The correct forms are either an apple is red or the apple is red. So whenever we use a singular countable noun, it must be accompanied by a determiner. And finally, there's a very practical rule about articles. When choosing between a or an, use an if the noun begins with a vowel and a if it begins with a consonant. But be careful, it's not just about the first letter, it's about the sound. For example, we say a university because although the word begins with a vowel, it has a consonant sound Y. On the other hand, we say an R because even though R starts with H, it is silent and the sound is actually a vowel sound R. So the sound we hear at the beginning of the word decides whether to use a or an. Moving forward, let's look at the types of determiners. Broadly, determiners fall into two main categories based on their function. First category includes those that are used for classification or identification. This means they help us identify or classify nouns in a sentence, whether we are talking about a general idea, something specific, pointing out an object, or showing possession. Under this category, we have the indefinite article, definite article, demonstratives, and possessives. The second category of determiners is used to indicate quantity, which means they tell us something about the number or amount of the noun being referred to. In this case, we use numbers and quantifiers to express how many items we're talking about or how much of something exists. Both types of determiners play a key role in adding meaning and precision to our sentences. Now, let's zoom in on one of the most basic types, indefinite articles. These are used before noun when the identity of the noun is not known or when it is general or singular. That simply means we use them when we talk about any one thing, not something specific. We only have two indefinite articles in English, a and an. So when do we use a and when do we use an? Let's break it down. We use a before consonant sounds. For example, a pair or a university. Even though university starts with a vowel, it begins with a consonant sound Y. So we say a university. Next, we use an before vowel sounds. For instance, an emergency or an R. Notice how it's based on the sound, not just the first letter of the word. Let's reinforce our learning with a few real-life examples. Listen carefully. A dog barked in the middle of the night. Here, the dog is not specific. It's just any dog. He picked a book from the shelf. Again, the book isn't identified. It could be any book. She saw an elephant at the zoo. Elephant starts with a vowel sound, so we use an. He ate an apple for breakfast. Same rule, the word apple begins with a vowel sound. Let's now move from general references to specific ones. When we want to talk about something known and clear to both the speaker and the listener, we use definite articles. The definite article in English is the, and it is used to identify a specific or definite noun or a noun that belongs to a specific group or category. For instance, if I say the moon, I'm not talking about just any moon. I mean that one specific moon we all know about. Let's carry on with an important part of grammar that often seems small but plays a big role. The. First, it is used when the speaker believes that the listener already knows what they are talking about. If someone says, "Let's go to the park," they assume you both know which park they mean. Second, we use the when referring to something that has already been mentioned. For example, I saw a cat. The cat was sitting on the wall. Here, the cat refers back to the same cat already introduced. We also use it when assuming there is just one of something in a place, like the principal is in the office. The speaker assumes there's only one principal. Next, we use the when defining or identifying a particular person or object, such as the girl with red hair is my cousin. And lastly, it is used when referring to people or objects that are unique, such as the sun, the earth, or the Taj Mahal. To see how naturally we use the, let's read some examples. In the question, "Will you be painting the shop this summer?" the speaker is referring to a specific shop both people likely know. In the sentence, "He's the uncle I was telling you about," the uncle is already part of their shared context. When someone says, "Please put the book away," the book has been mentioned or seen already. And the sun is the source of energy uses the for something unique. There's only one sun for our planet. Now, let's move on to another type of determiner, demonstratives. These are words that point out persons, places, or things directly. Instead of simply saying book, a demonstrative helps us be more specific about which one we mean. There are 4 common demonstratives: this, these, that, and those. This and these refer to something near us, while that and those refer to something farther away. Also, this and that are used with singular nouns, whereas these and those go with plural. Let's see them in action. When someone says, "This book is very interesting," they are pointing to a specific book that is close by. "That movie was really good" suggests the movie is being recalled from some distance in time or place. In these shoes are too small for him. These points to the shoes that are nearby and plural. And in those houses were newly built. Those refers to multiple houses that are farther away or not present right now. Let's now look at one more important category of determiners, possessives. These are used to show ownership. In other words, possessives show that the things mentioned belong to somebody. Common possessive determiners include my, your, her, our, his, and their. For example, my pencil tells us who owns the pencil. Her dress, his notebook, their project. Each of these phrases shows us who something belongs to. These words always come before the noun and never stand alone. To strengthen our understanding of possessives, let's look at how they are used in real sentences. When we say, my backpack is heavy, the word my shows that the backpack belongs to the speaker. Similarly in, his idea sounds great. His tells us who owns the idea. The question, is your dog friendly, uses your to show possession. And in her mobile is stolen, her refers to the owner of the phone. In animal references, we often use its, like in, its tail is wagging. For shared ownership, our car was parked near the park, tells us that the car belongs to the speaker and others. And finally, their house is demolished, uses their to show that the house belongs to them. All of these possessive determiners appear before the noun to make the ownership clear. Let's now turn our attention to number determiners. These are words that help us specify how many items or what position something holds. In short, numbers can clarify the number of elements being discussed. We can divide them into two categories: cardinal number articles such as 1 and 5, and ordinal number articles such as first and third. Focusing first on cardinal numbers, these help us count actual quantities. Numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 5, 11 and 200 are cardinal numbers, and they are used to express quantity. For example, they are commonly used as determiners before nouns, like 1 apple or 5 chairs. Cardinal numbers simply tell us how many of something. Let's explore a few examples to make that clearer. In, I have only one pencil. The word one is a cardinal determiner indicating the quantity of the noun pencil. In the sentence, have you got 2 extra pens? 2 is again a number, telling us how many pens are being referred to. Another one is, Samrat bought 5 dozens of oranges from the vendor, where 5 is used to describe how many dozens were purchased. These number determiners always come before the noun they modify. Next, let's talk about order and position using ordinal numbers. Numbers such as first, second and third are ordinal numbers. Their function is to tell us about something's rank in an ordered set, like who finished in what position or which floor a room is on. To understand how these words are used, consider this sentence. Rahul finished in the 3rd place in the hurdle race. The word third tells us his exact position. In, Dhruv was the first person to arrive. The ordinal determiner first places him at the beginning of the order. And in, my office is on the 10th floor. The word 10th gives us the floor number, showing the order among many. Finally, let's explore quantifiers, which are all about quantity. Quantifiers are special determiners that describe quantity in a noun phrase. They help answer how many or how much on a scale that can range from none, that is 0%, to all, that is 100%. Some quantifiers such as many or few are used only with countable nouns like books or pencils. Others like much or little are used only with uncountable nouns like water or sugar. Students, remember that quantifiers are most often used before a noun, but they can also appear on their own as pronouns. For example, in the sentence, he ate all the cake. All acts as a quantifier before the noun cake. But in all have returned, all is used independently as a pronoun. the meaning remains related to quantity. Now, let's clear up a common mistake. In the sentence, much food is correct because food is uncountable. The quantifier much fits because we cannot count food individually. But when we say much apples is incorrect because apples are countable, it sounds wrong. Instead, we should say many apples. So matching quantifiers with the right type of noun is very important. Let's end with one of the most commonly used quantifiers, some. This word indicates an unspecified amount, often used with plural nouns or uncountable nouns. For example, in some men are born brave, some refers to an unknown number of men. In please pass some sugar, it is used with the uncountable noun sugar to indicate quantity in a general way. Let's begin this section with the quantifier much. It is used to describe a large quantity but is commonly used with uncountable nouns. This means we use much with nouns that cannot be counted individually, like water, sugar, or milk. For example, in the sentence, there is not much water in the pot. The word much quantifies the uncountable noun water. It gives us an idea of how limited the quantity is. Now, compare that with the quantifier many, which also refers to a large indefinite quantity, but it is usually used with countable plural nouns. So, instead of water or sugar, we use many with nouns like people, books, or pencils. For example, many people went to greet him. The noun people is countable and plural, and the word many tells us the number was large but not specified. Students, now listen carefully. When we are referring to things that we cannot count one by one, we use a special word. That word is less. The word less is used when we are talking about a smaller amount of something, and it is used to modify or describe uncountable nouns. For example, please put less sugar in my tea. Since sugar is uncountable, we use less to indicate a smaller quantity. On the other hand, fewer is used when we are talking about countable nouns and is the comparative form of the word few. For example, in this sentence, there are fewer girls in this section. We use fewer because girls is countable and we are making a comparison. Now, let's move on to all, which is a very flexible quantifier. It refers to the entire quantity of something, and it can be used with both countable and uncountable nouns. For instance, in the sentence, he ate all the apples. All shows that no apples were left behind. And in the sentence, all the children enjoyed the party. The word all is applied to the group of children, showing that everyone participated. Another word that expresses completeness is whole. It is used to describe the completeness of something, and it often functions as an adverb. For instance, in the example, we have written the whole page. The word whole means that the page was completed entirely. Moving on to another important determiner that helps us focus on individuals within a group. The word each plays a key role. It refers to every individual item or person in a group, and it is used with singular nouns. This means we use each when we want to highlight individuals one by one. For example, each girl will get a prize shows that every single girl will receive a reward. In each student has a locker, the focus is on individual ownership. Let's look at two related words, either and neither. The word either means one of the two or both, and we use it when we are given a choice between two options. For example, you can go by either road means both roads are acceptable. In contrast, neither means not either or none of the two. It's a negative form, so when we say neither side is winning, it means that none of the two sides are ahead. Now, let's explore the difference between few and a few. The word few means hardly any and has a negative meaning. It is used with countable plural nouns, often to show that something is almost absent. For example, he is a man of few words means he doesn't speak much at all. On the other hand, a few means a small number and has a positive meaning. It suggests that there is at least some amount. For instance, in the example, he was asked to say a few words. The phrase shows a small but sufficient number of words. Finally, we have the few, which is slightly different. The few means not many, but all of them. It is used when referring to a small, known group that is being entirely considered. For example, the few chocolates Aruna had were expired. Here, the chocolates refer to a small number, and the sentence is talking about all of those chocolates. Let's now look at how little, a little, and the little differ. Starting with little. It means hardly any and has a negative meaning. We use it with uncountable nouns to show that there is almost nothing left. For example, there is little sugar left in the pot tells us the amount of sugar is nearly gone. Moving on to a little. This phrase means some, though not much, but the whole of it. It carries a positive tone suggesting there is at least something available. Consider this sentence. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. It means having a little amount of knowledge or a small amount of knowledge can sometimes lead to overconfidence. And finally, we have the little, which means not much but the whole of it. It refers to a known small quantity that is being completely considered. For instance, in the sentence, I gave to the beggar the little money I had. The speaker gave away all the small amount of money they possessed. These three forms, little, a little, and the little, look similar but have very different meanings depending on the context and tone. Now, let's put our learning into practice with a short exercise. We'll read each sentence and try to choose the correct determiners. Let's begin. In the sentence, each or every student must bring their own notebook. Both are close in meaning, but each focus more on individuals one by one. Next, we have I have seen few or little progress in the project so far. Since progress is uncountable, the correct word is little. Now read this one. We met a or an famous artist yesterday. Famous starts with a consonant sound, so the correct choice is a. And finally, many or much people attended the concert. Your people is countable, so we choose many. Let's continue with more sentences. The first one is, she doesn't have some or any friends in the city. Since it's a negative sentence, we choose any. In the sentence, would you like this or these piece of cake? Or that or those one? Piece is singular, so we use this and that. Then we read, I need some or any help with my homework. In this request, some is appropriate because it's polite and positive. Finally, in the sentence, much or many water is wasted every day. Water is uncountable, so much is the right choice. Before we bring today's session to a close, let's highlight some important points through our Instalights. Firstly, words used to clarify or modify nouns are what we call determiners. They appear before nouns and help specify their meaning. Secondly, a determiner often refers to something specific, such as the sun or this book. Next, don't forget, some determiners can be used as pronouns like all, some, or each depending on how they are used in a sentence. And lastly, determiners help us express quantity, possession, and relative position, whether we are saying my car, 10 books, or the first time. That brings us to the end of the chapter on determiners. Stay tuned and curious with Install's video for more such information. Bye.